to have more interaction with me. But of course, time disallows me to do so. I just have 2 hours. I think it's very, very demanding. Anyway, now I still have two more dimensions have to be covered. For the others, it depends on time. If time allows, I will speak more. If time disallows me, try to read through the documents. Because in the second week, Dr. Alice, would also let you know more about questionnaire settings and some of the qualitative research methods as well. Okay, now I just mentioned that in the first half, most of the students think that it is quite difficult for them to set a research question, research topic. Of course, in my perspective, it's not a very demanding task for you to find out an issue which worthwhile further study. It depends on your observation. It depends on your sensitivity towards the surrounding. It depends on whether you like to read. You know, if you read more, you will think that Hong Kong really have a lot of topic need further studies. I don't know whether you agree with me. If you read Hong Kong's newspaper every day, I think that you may notice that Hong Kong has a lot of problems, and they can all be researched. Okay. Let us back to our study. Now, our requirement, actually not only my student, but also the student of Dr. Chow and Anita, we all ask our students to fabricate a topic which is based on the research, not research, based on the lecture contents. Okay? In the coming few weeks, for my students, you would have a lot of new dimensions. I think it would be very interesting. They would be all very interesting, like what is law, rule of law, law and order in Hong Kong. And we also have 2 guest speakers. They have confirmed it, actually. One is about the development of civil society, okay, in Hong Kong, who has been working for Oxfam for more than 30 years. Second is about the law and order in Hong Kong and Macau as they are. You know, these 2 topics may also enlighten you to fabricate your research topic. Okay, even you do not have idea, you can ask us. Remember, BHS, our assistant, us, our team, that is Anita, I, and Alice, all of us are ready to provide you more ideas about the topic. Okay, once you fix your topic, it comes to another very important question, that is the research framework design. I may have something in mind that they are very significant, but at the same time, how can I turn this kind of significant idea into researchable question? You know, people may be ambitious. Remember, I just told you, I would like to research student behavior in Hong Kong. Wow, 3 hours, but sorry, three months. How can you finish the topic, which is quite giant? So you have to scale it down, and at the same time, design some of the appropriate research methods, data collection methods. Otherwise, you just collect a basket of data which is useless. Okay? And it's quite common, I can say that it's quite common for the student in Hong Kong that they try to make use of some methods. Even the method is valid, they do not know how to get the relevant data. Okay, let me give you an example. A student said that I would like to conduct a study about the consumption pattern among the Hong Kong university students. Okay, consumption. How do they spend? Okay, and in their questionnaire, there have been some kind of question which make me really doubtful. First of all, how old are you? Second, do you like eating? Thirdly, where do you come from? Fourthly, how wealthy of your family? My immediate response is, what are the rationale for you to ask these 4 questions? Do you know the response from my student? They said that, okay, it's quite common. It's quite common for us to read the questionnaires from online, that these are the questions which cannot be ignored. These are the questions which commonly emerge in the other questionnaire. So you have to answer this, you have to ask this question. This is not a kind of questionnaire of students, you know. Every question you ask in the questionnaire must be related to your research question. If it is not related, don't ask. And at the same time, the setting of questionnaire, the sequence of the question are totally related. Okay? Of course, for the genuine tips you may get from Dr. Chow in next round. But remember, always remember, all the questions you ask must be related to the research question. Okay? And for this, you have to understand one of the very important concepts that is called IV and DV. You know what I said? DV doesn't mean that the video can DV. Dependent variable. Independent variable. And at the same time, research has two types. One is called exploratory. Another is called explanatory. 1 and 2. I can say that most of the second type of research, explanatory research, is a kind of attempt to prove something. Usually prove the correlation among the variables. Okay? Now, just use the example I just mentioned in the first half. I wonder that people living in student hostel may get better GPA. No? This is a kind of explanatory, whether they are related. For the exploratory research, it is a little bit different from the explanatory research. Usually, a kind of statement may be ignored. That is no statement. I just want to explore the topic by some means and then try to have alternative or further explanation, further illustration, further interpretation to some of the phenomena. Okay, you may know it fairly, but of course, if you have any kind of frustration, even up to this moment, I will provide you example right now. Okay, let's take a look at page 6. Now, in the middle, there is an example. Of course, it's flawed. It's a hypothetical one. It is about your campus life. It's a kind of research that may arouse your interest. But of course, it is not allowed to be your research topic because it is not related to the perspective of citizenship. Okay, example. Studying the absenteeism of Hong Kong IED students in lectures. Let's imagine you are a researcher who would like to conduct a study about the reasons for students' absence in my class. Okay, what are the possible reasons? You know, there are some kind of so-called variables, independent variables, that may contribute to the dependent variables. Your absence is a kind of result, isn't it? It should be result from a number of reasons or just a single reason. Okay? What may be the reasons? And in this study, if it is in the format of questionnaires, I think several areas must be touched. If it is not a kind of questionnaire, several dimensions may be asked. What are they? First of all, how do you know the phenomenon? It is really important because if this phenomenon is just told by some people, some professor, which is quite unpopular or quite boring, you know, I think his judgment may not be so accurate. Okay? Second, why are the students absent from classes? They should have a lot of excuses. Usually it is because of sickness. You know, a lot of people were sick in some important scenarios. Thirdly, what kind of lecture recording most absentees, morning lectures, this subject, particular lecturer, people, time, and when? 8:30 lectures is quite demanding for the student in university. But let me remind you, once you get graduated, you have to report duty to your office at 9, usually. If you feel that 8:30 is demanding, okay, you please enjoy these 3 years. After you become workforce, it will be very demanding. But 8:30 lecture is quite undesirable, particularly for the students who live in student hostel. For those students who do not live in the campus, it should be because of the coach arrangement, you know. Particularly for our institute. You have to queue up for a long time. I remember on some Fridays, I have 8:30 lectures. I just have one student until 9 o'clock. I'm not trying to blame on them because all of them, some of them because of sickness, some of them because of traffic, some of them because of the other homework. Of course, they all got justifiable excuses. But the point is, just one student. Okay. Next one, how do the absentees account for the absence? It is really important. Based on my unacademic, unscientific research, sickness is the major reason. Flu is the major sickness among the sickness. You know, they may say that they have sickness. Some of them said that they have championship matches. Some of them even said that they have part-time jobs, but ironically they are full-time students. You know, these are their accounts. You know, how do the people account for their absence is also another dimension which is really interesting. 嗱，你點樣去解釋你唔返學咧？好多原因，但係呢樣好值得人 study. Okay, any pattern can you identify? Now, my initial observation is that the absence rate in the big lecture theatre would be higher. Do you think so? 喺大 lecture theatre 上堂咧，係多啲人返學嘅。Why? Why? Diffusion of responsibility. Just like those cyberbullying, you know? You have bullied, okay, the victim. No, I just posed a flag, you know? I should not be blamed, you know? I am just one of the 5 million people, you know? I'm just one absentee among the 100 students. The professor would not care, and he cannot identify me. But you know, the result is a lot of people would think like this, and eventually half of the classes would not show up. In the small classroom, in the tutorial, it would be better. Okay, so that's why we choose a small classroom. Okay, next one, peer pressure. You would have a lot of good friends, at the same time, bad friends. They would advise you to attend some kind of lectures based on some kind of very unreasonable reasons. Like, better go to karaoke, better have overnight meal, better play mahjong. I don't know whether it is the case, but peer pressure is quite common among the students for absenteeism. Okay, doing part-time job, and lastly, where do you live? Now, these are the dimensions. These are all the so-called IV. Okay, these may be the reason that may shape the behavior that is absent of you. Okay, so in your study, I think that if it is a kind of quantitative study, you would like to make some questionnaires, try to make use of these kind of variables to decide for your questions, which are related to them. If you are ambitious, if you have time, if you would like to have a big scale of study, try to identify as much theory as possible, as much idea as possible. If it is not the case, just focus on sample stuff. You'll feel interested. You know? Can you get my point? Now, back to your study. IVDV is really important, particularly for the quantitative study, because you have to set some kind of hypothesis for testing. Hypothesis means assumption, presumption. Living in student hostel would get better GPA. It is a kind of hypothesis. It can be tested. It can be proven. And it may eventually can be proven wrong. You know? Don't say that, okay, I cannot prove it because it seems that the data I got cannot prove that it is right. Yes, that means your data prove it wrong. Okay? Now, I remember several years ago, I involved myself into a research project. I think this project, to be honest, may not be so relevant. This project is to study whether using MOI, either using CMI, mother tongue, for teaching would get more desirable academic result. I think this research is totally invariable because everybody knows that using mother tongue to teach will be better. Is it the case? Do you agree with me? If you cannot have response, it just means I should use mother tongue. 你冇反應，咁應該用普通話講啦，啱唔啱？Still no response. That means it is unrelated. I don't know. But anyway, now this study basically I think may not be valuable in terms of layman perspective, but in terms of academic, you know, the research team collect a lot of data and then try to prove that using mother tongue to teach would be better for students' cognitive development initially. But ironically, let me tell you another result, another finding of us is that using mother tongue to teach would get better results in social sciences, better cognitive ability, but diminishing chances to get admitted to university in Hong Kong. Can you get my point? Do you agree with this? Just because of one reason, because you cannot get better result in UE. And at the same time, some of your school may decide to shift the MOI from Chinese to English in the matriculation. You know? And at the same time, lastly, you know, those EMI schools are so-called then one school. You know? These are the background. But anyway, this is a kind of research trying to prove something. But if your research is not to prove something, try to explore some kind of dimension, you do not need to set a hypothesis. It is not essential. You may like to conduct your research by explore some of the dimensions which may be ignored by the previous researchers. Like, for this absence rate, I wonder students are absent from my class just because of one reason, that is the location of the classroom. Nobody would like to take care of this dimension. Okay? Location of the classroom may be important. If I locate the class at C, it will be better. If I locate it at D4, okay, it may not be good. If I locate the class in a giant lecture theater with 500 people capacity, it would be worse. I don't know whether it is a kind of reason, but if your research is a kind of exploratory, a little bit new, a little bit under research dimension, okay, treat it as qualitative. And of course, at the same time, using exploratory as the objective would enable you to make a more in-depth illustration. That's immersion. Using questionnaire means you do not have interaction with the informants. The questionnaire can be set a minute. Now, be honest. From time to time, I would receive the questionnaire filling requests from my friends through the web. Lawrence, please help me, do me a favor on the Facebook. Oh, please help me to fill in the questionnaire. Of course, usually I will ignore them. If I do not ignore them, filling in the forms without authentic or passionate commitment. Okay, okay, finish within 3 minutes. Okay, and this is a kind of quantitative question, quantitative research methods. It may not be well. Of course, you may make use of interview in-person method to ask, to guide the subject to fill in the questionnaire, but it may not be good as well because it involves huge manpower. For the qualitative one, you have to so-called facial contact and in-depth discussion. You know, it is a kind of not wastage, but a kind of time-consuming exercise. So it is more favorable for qualitative exploratory study, you know, rather than explanatory study. Okay, is it clear? For more detail, you can note them more. Okay, in next round by Dr. Charles Beck. Is it clear? So DVIV identification are both important. Don't underestimate it. For your own study, try to ask yourself what are the purposes of your study, whether you would like to prove something or whether you would like to highlight one of the dimensions you feel interested and try to take them into detail. Okay. If there's no problem, let us back to another dimension which is also very important. That is made true. Now, the steps. I just mentioned that research process. Process means a kind of cycle. I treat it as a cynical mode, you know, it's a cycle. If it is not, at least it is a kind of linear process, linear progress in which several steps can be identified. You have to pass through all the steps, usually in academic research. Like, of course, you have to define and refine the research topic. Now, define what is it and what is the topic you would like to conduct a study, and at the same time try to refine its group. Don't make it too big. Research topic is not equivalent to research question or questions. Research topic can be very big. Questions should be precise. Can you get my point? Okay, let me give an example. I would like to conduct a study about Hong Kong. Oh, my area study is Hong Kong. But at the same time, my study is not only Hong Kong, but Hong Kong society's migration pattern. You know, this is a more specific research question. Usually, if you like, or it is even more favorable for you to identify the question in an even more precise way, like migration and age group, I don't know whether it is sensible. But anyway, make it even more specific. The more precise, the more well-defined of your research area and topic and questions, the more likely you'll get better interpretation and better academic quality of your study. You know, if it is too big, it may not be desirable at all. Okay. Second, looking for relevant information, you have to review the literature. Now, I just mentioned this. It is really, really important. Reading is really important. You notice I have some colleagues who always encourage you to read, but at the same time, reading materials that are related to your topic is also very important. I got some students in my other course who said that, Lawrence, I do not know how to select the readings from the library reading list, from the library archives, because you asked me to conduct a study about the keyword power in another class. They try to perform a search on the library list, and then they borrow all the books with the word power, more than 10 volumes. And they said that, sorry, I do not have enough time to read them all. And my immediate response is, what is your purpose? What are your targets? What do you want to read? I do not know. I just want to borrow all the words regarding power. Of course, I am not discouraging them from reading. At the same time, what are the related volumes that may facilitate you to conduct the presentation? It is really important. 2 tips. First of all, newspaper must be read. Okay, if you find out a topic which is related to your course, that is citizenship, and of course, newspaper will give you a lot of ideas. Once you fix the topic, like writing on a boat, you know, try to fix your focus. Try to lock your focuses on those writing on a boat controversies in the newspapers. Second, don't just focus on facts, but also the analysis. You know, there are some kind of interpretation analysis. Don't just focus on the facts, not only the figures, but also the interpretations. Second, for academic volumes, try to take a closer look to the reading list. You know, the reading list I provide you, or seek the ideas from professors. They will guide you and provide you more accurate tips for what are the volumes that you must read. Like, if you want to study the so-called generation gap in Hong Kong, generation, post-80s, post-90s, and post-50s, of course, one of the books you must read is Loi Tai Lok's book, 四代香港人. I do not know it. Ask. You know, you can ask your professors, and they will definitely provide you ideas. And at the same time, if your research is about the comparison, don't just read Loi Tai Lok's book. You know, you should also read some of the overseas volume, which describe the case not in Hong Kong, in mainland China, in the other countries. You know, and these volumes usually would be included in the reading list. Usually. But some of the cases, in some of the scenarios, try to ask the professors. They may provide you some kind of tips. Even they do not know or familiar with the subjects, they would have their suggestion or recommendation to recommend you to the other professors, which are experts at that areas. Okay. And at the same time, after reading, formulate a research question. Remember the word narrow. Narrow would be good for you. You know, don't make it too broad. When I first became PhD student, I was persuaded by an overseas professor from the United Kingdom. He said that, Lawrence, always remember one of the principles for writing a good research, that is, make your research question more specific. In our cohorts, you know, basically trying to deal with some kind of very subtle but important questions. He thinks that a lot of Chinese students are very ambitious, would like their thesis to change the world. You know, change the world means they think that their thesis would be contributing to the overturning of the whole world, you know. Create some kind of theories, very important. No, you just try to study a very, very subtle phenomenon. But it may be good if your question is properly set. Okay? Try not to study what is citizenship in Hong Kong. No. Try to study some of the interesting dimensions that may arouse the debate. 水貨客 and people's interpretation to citizenship. Wow, it is really interesting. You know, subtle issue. Of course, I am a sociologist. I like inductive approach. If you are a political scientist, if you are a behavioral scientist, psychologist, your approach, your preferences may not be the same. But always not to be over ambitious. You're just a student, undergraduate student. Okay, and you have to identify the main element of the topic and specify this element in limited and researchable scope. It is really, really important. Now, lastly, at the bottom of page 2, formulate the research design and choose a data collection method. Remember the insufficiencies or the fault in which my friends have committed. Once you got the wrong information, actually not wrong, but improper methods for data collection, the research reliability, the findings, the interpretation may not be justified. Once you get the wrong way to look for the information. Lastly, at the bottom of page 2, also need to consider ethics. Remember, please consider the ethical problem. Now, page 3. The last item, analyzing and drawing conclusion from the findings. Now, this is also very important because you have to write up your paper. A lot of students, based on my observation from marking your Hong Kong studies papers, most of the students pay efforts. Now, I really appreciate them. But the point is, I find that most of you do not know how to generalize the stuff and then try to provide the conclusion. I don't know whether it is the loopholes of our curriculum, whether it is a kind of problem of our secondary schooling mechanism. A lot of students try to provide a lot of facts and data. Lawrence HO mentioned this, Professor A mentioned this, Professor B mentioned this, and then the literature mentioned this, and they never try to provide comprehensive critiques over these observations. And at the same time, once they got the data, they just provide us the fact, but never try to explain or illustrate the meaning of that data. Okay, let me give you an example. If you find out the problems, if you find out the pattern that from the data that a lot of students try not to show up in 8:30 lecture. You may notice that a lot of them got health problems. Your conclusion must involve one of the observation and try to assure the reader that there may have significant correlation based on my findings, that sickness and absence. You have to write it down very, very clearly. Some students will try to respond to me, Lawrence, based on our data set, I cannot find out something significant. 都冇重要揾到，所以我唔知點寫，係咪啊？唔重要啊。Okay, and in fact 冇重要嘢揾到 is also a kind of important finding. 未必係 helpful 嘅啫，係咪啊 ？Okay, no specific or significant relationship among the variables. It doesn't mean that it is not significant because based on your set of data, you cannot find out the correlation. Okay, and if it is a kind of exploratory study, you cannot find something very specific. It can also be something that may further explore. If it is a kind of exploratory studies, you cannot find out something very, very, very interesting or very exceptional. Okay, let's try to report it in a straightforward manner, and then try to let the readers know. Okay, these must be further research. That's all. You have to draw the conclusion, and at the same time, remember, try to let the readers know your findings with some kind of meaningful interpretation. Now, usually, a research report will have a summary or abstract. Abstract is not something you think that they are right. It is based on the findings or the management of the research. Some students try to write a lot of suggestions. 喺個 research report 度咧俾咗好多 suggestions。你哋應該點嗱 因為好多人翻學咧，所以咧，不如老師要點名啊。老師要點名 is not a kind of research area, and at the same time，老師要點名 is based on your suggestion, but not based on the research question. Please do not do so. Okay, is it clear? Now, these are the dimensions I think you have to take care of. Of course, you may wonder that, Lawrence, I have got a lot of ideas, but at the same time, it seems that I got no help. I get no help from my own research project. Yes, we have our planning. Now, today is a kind of very brief introduction to research methodologies. Of course, it is just tips of the iceberg. It is a big topic, and it's just the first 2 hours. In next week, next Monday, please go to Dr. Alice Chow's lecture. She is going to let you know some kind of quantitative research methods plus some of the qualitative research methods. Okay? 1, 2, 3. In the middle of March, we would have, take a look to the schedule. I have arranged 2 rounds of tutorial workshop. For that 2 rounds, I am not the speaker. You would be the speakers. Speaker doesn't mean that you need to go out to present your stuff. No, it would be a small class manner, and I will provide individual group tutorial to you in 2 hours. We will have 2 rounds. Okay, please check carefully the exact date for your attendance. Lastly, in the middle of April, before the poster presentation, we will have the last round guiding you to produce the poster. Okay, is it clear? Hope that this workshop would be helpful. Research methodology should not be a course, in my perspective. It should be a kind of exercise. Would let you know to have your own exposure, and you would learn a lot definitely. It should not be taught. If I taught you 10 hours, it is still useless. Once you get exposure, when you experience what is a research, it would help you a lot. Okay, any problem? If not, see you all on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Right. In our lecture.